أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين وأصحابهم المنتجبين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداعي إذا دعاني فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون. صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسول الكريم وصدق مولانا أمير المؤمنين. صلوات. I seek Allah's protection from Shaitan, who is the cursed one, and I start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the most kind and most merciful. Indeed, all praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the master, owner and ruler of all the worlds. Indeed, all praise is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has guided us to this right path of Islam, and had He not shown us of this true way, would have been of those who are lost. Our choicest greetings to our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and his pure family and their selected companions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I was just checking with Mukhi Sahib here as to when I'm supposed to finish. And he said to me, this is because yesterday I had somebody say that I had finished a bit too early. But I thought, looking at the first fast, everybody was tired. So I was just checking with him, and he said, I can finish any time I like, but I have to watch the clock, and when the big hand reaches number 2 or number 12, I must stop, no matter what happens. Salawat. Last night, I presented the 183rd verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that, O you who believe, fasting has been prescribed for you as it was done before. And the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in that verse, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may attain taqwa, piety, God-wariness. And I didn't finish yesterday because of the fact that I rushed. I thought my time had run out. But I would like just to focus on a couple of points. And the first thing is that when we look at this holy month of Ramadan, yesterday I tried to give you the uniqueness through the journey that Islam takes us when we embrace it, and the discoveries that we make through the processes. And this fasting which takes place in the month of Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan, it is part of Furu'edin. We all know that. For we have the usul, the 5 usul, and then we have the furu'. The first one is salat, and the second is sawm, fasting. But there is something special about this furu', which is unique of the other 9 which are comprised in the 10 furu'ad-din. And the first thing is that in all the other ibadats comprised in that furu', there is a possibility for a mu'min or a believer to undertake that ibadah and show off to other people. But fasting is so unique that whether you fast or you don't fast, nobody knows. That relationship is purely between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing about this fasting, in salat, certainly when we are younger and even when we are older, for example in salat, we say, well, it's 2 rakats and then 3 and then 4 and 4 and 4, 17 rakats in a day. And there is a length of time attributed to it. And alhamdulillah, with Allah's blessing, and when Maulana is reciting Salatul Jama'ah for us, and he thinks that all the mu'mineen are fasting, he speeds up a bit, so it takes less time. But fasting, Sawm in itself, is that ibadat which is the longest in all the, other than when you look at all the 10 furu', Sawm, the fasting, is the longest ibadat that takes place continuously without interruption. No change there. And finally, when we look at all the other 9 ibadats that are set in furu', in every one of them, an action is required. And Sawm is the most difficult ibadat because it requires non-action. In everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, and we referred yesterday to the khutbah of our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it is the ibadah of not doing something, not being abusive, not talking frivolously, not going to places we should not be doing, not doing the haram. That is the uniqueness of this ibadah. Now, I left yesterday and I said right when we started that Allah says to us, fasting is to enable us to achieve taqwa. I don't want to go into the philosophy of taqwa, but I thought more for myself to see what do the other learned scholars have to say for it. Ayatollah Dastaghaib Shirazi, in his work Gunahan-e Kabira, which is available in the library and is available in the bookshop as well, no doubt. In the introduction, when he talks about taqwa, he says taqwa means to be compliant totally and completely with every wajibat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has laid out for you. And that is one level of taqwa. The second level of taqwa, he says, is to embrace wholeheartedly those actions which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would like you to do but which are not compulsory, which we will call mustahabbat. That puts the whole thing for me in a different perspective. And then I recalled and I researched and looked back at what the late Ayatollah Murtaza Mutahhari had to say on this. And he gave a beautiful example about this taqwa. He says sometimes we think of taqwa as something which is like a shackle on us, something which is blocking us, something which is imprisoning us. But he says, think about it in this way. When you go home at home tonight and you look at your house, and you step inside, yes, you are locked in because there are walls. You are locked in because there is a roof. But the beauty about that house, you do not call it a shackle or a prison, but you consider it as a sanctuary because it is protecting you from everything else that is outside which is likely to harm you. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when He talks about taqwa for us in this holy month of Ramadan. That is what He is saying. And that is why I put the verse that I have recited before you. Because in Surah Al-Baqarah, as I said yesterday, we start with verse 183, which brings out the month of fasting and its requirements. And then we have verse 184, which further expounds on the fasting itself and the time. 185 then comes and tells us that this is that holy month in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Holy Quran for our benefit. And then in 187, in verse 187, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eases things for the mu'mineen by saying, yes, the fasting is only in set times. So when the sun has set and it is dusk, you may eat. Or if you've overslept and you wake up, it doesn't mean you can't have your iftar. Please do have iftar and do have a sahur. Nestled between these verses is this verse number 186. How wonderful that is. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِذَا, He's saying to the Prophet, when the Prophet, he is referring to calling the Prophet, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِ عَنِّي, and when my servants ask you, O Muhammad, about me, where am I? فَإِنِّي قَرِيب, indeed I am very close to Him. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ, when He calls upon me, I respond. So, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي, and so let them come to me, O Rasul, O Muhammad, let them come to me. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي, and have absolute faith and belief in me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why? لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ, so that they may be guided on the right path. And now this, as far as I'm concerned, fits in beautifully with the concept that we have of this holy month of Shahru Ramadan. As our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam constantly enunciated, and our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, in the 44th dua in Sahifa Sajjadiyya, which he teaches us when the month of Ramadan has come, and he recites this dua, and we are recommended to recite it, where he says, O Allah, all these blessings and ni'mah that you have promised us, indeed they are right. And then in parts of it, our weaknesses are highlighted by Imam. And he says, Ya Allah, ensure that my limbs in this holy month are dedicated in total subservience and obedience to your orders and command. And let me not be led astray in any shape or form in this holy month. This is the fourth Imam. So, which brings us where we left off last night. As I said, I watch the people going to the gym. I walk to the gym, I walk back. I've done my gym. No. As far as we are concerned, this is that month when we need to bring taqwa and to improve ourselves to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the detailed exposition of this you will find in Jami' al-Sa'ada by Ayatollah Naraqi. You can read it. But for our purpose, when we go to the gym, it is to improve our body. And as I said yesterday, the body, the car, the buildings, the decorations, all these are fani. And at the end of the day, they will go. But the one thing that will not go is that part of us, our soul, our ruh. As Maulana Rumi, in one of his explanations, what is this soul? He gives it as a beautiful illustration, which we see it all the time, but we forget. When you go home, in every house there is a mirror. Look at that mirror. Take a piece of cloth. Wipe it clean so there is no dust on it. Come back in a few minutes and look at it again. There will be dust already forming on that mirror. Our soul is like that mirror, he says. We are merely reflecting Allah's rahmah as a receptacle. And it is incumbent upon us to keep polishing that ruh so that it is constantly in that position that it is shining and bright. And it is through that taqwa we will improve ourselves. So like in the gym, what are we going to do? What instruments or what items are we going to use in this holy month of Ramadan to try to improve ourselves? Now, before we go into that, what we are being called upon to do, of course, is to bring a change in ourselves. And the scientific papers tell us that it takes a minimum of 18 days to bring about change. And those who are experts in change management will tell you to achieve any change in the workplace or in anything requires 3 important components. The first one is focus. 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 Children in nursery are taught to focus. You have to focus on the target. This is a limited period of time that we have. 30 days, maybe 29, 2 have already passed. We have to focus on our target of self-improvement. The second thing is there has to be the right conditions for this change to be effected. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His infinite mercy says, in this holy month of Ramadan, you will not eat between dawn and dusk. No matter what other fiqh and other apps that you receive which tell you different, the Quran says you fast from the beginning of dawn and you break your fast at dusk. A dramatic change for all of us. For how many of us cannot do with that cup of tea or cup of coffee in the morning? But here, this is the time. Allah has done the first difficult part for us. He has already brought about the environment to enable us to bring about change. And the third thing is repetition, deliberate repetition and practice. And what does that mean? Doing the same thing again and again and again to achieve the goal that we set out. So what are we going to do? And what are we going to use to get to our target in this holy month of Ramadan? To achieve this taqwa which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is imploring us. He is calling us. We have heard we are His guests. The guest sets out the terms of the banquet. What are we going to take away from it? And the first thing that we have to remember is, when we go to the gym, you have a trainer. And you might rightly say, excuse me, where is the trainer? And I'm not talking about the trainers that we wear. The guy who motivates you. If you haven't found the motivators, I despair. For the motivator is none other than our 12th Imam, Imam Sahib al-Zaman. You want to be in the army of the Imam. And he is telling you, here is Shahru Ramadan. And I think that when you go to the gym, the other thing the motivator tells you, if you are going to do the cycle, don't overdo it. If you are going to go on the rowing machine, don't overdo it. You're going to do the push-ups and pulls, take it easy. It's different in brothers in the month of Ramadan. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Holy Prophet and the Imams are telling us, do it, overdo it. You can never harm yourself when you follow the message and the path and the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the A'immah have laid out for us. And we start with Salah, which is the wajibat. And you say, well, yeah. One day, our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was walking along, and Salman al-Farsi, the companion, was with him. And the Holy Prophet picked up a branch from the ground and he shook it. And all the leaves fell off that branch. And the Prophet didn't say anything as his wont. And they walked a little bit longer. And he turned around to Salman and said, "Oh Salman, are you not going to ask me what I have just done?" Of course, if we're in this modern time, we would say, of course, we know what you're talking about. But Salman is saying, "Ya Rasulullah, please enlighten me." He said, "You know, Salman, when somebody stands up for salat, all the sins that he has committed fall off him the way these leaves fell off this branch." But even we get before that step. Now you see, I'll put my cards right now on the table. And whenever I give talks, I always am addressing it to myself. And I am the laziest person when it comes to all these things. And I'm always looking for the shortest cut to get to the point. So when salat is talked about, it is preceded by one more requirement. And that is wudu. Absolutely. Thank you for the guidance. We need to have wudu to be able to pray. And what is this wudu? And I will share with you a part of this long hadith. One day, our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. By the way, I seek forgiveness of my elders who may already know all these ahadith, but bear with me because I've got to look after our younger brothers as well, who need to be, maybe they know it as well. And this is just a signpost from yesterday. So he was sitting around with his companions, and he said to them, of this whole long hadith, I'll just take this one part. And he said, which one of you spends the whole night in ibadah? Which one of you doesn't sleep the whole night, spends the whole night in ibadah? The companions were looking at each other, and one companion, he stood up and said, Ya Rasulullah, I spend my whole night in ibadah. The others, Ya Rasulullah, look, he is not telling the truth, Ya Rasulullah. We have seen him. He's snoring, he's fast asleep at night. And the Holy Prophet said, O Salman, tell them, why do you say that you spend the whole night in ibadah when they have seen you sleeping? He said, Ya Rasulullah, was it not you who told us that if you perform wudu and then you go to sleep, then throughout that process of sleeping until the morning you are in a constant state of ibadah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And this is a habit which we need to inculcate within ourselves, of being constantly in the state of wudu. As Ayatollah al-Khomeini in his book Adabus Salah, he draws attention to this. He said, when I discovered the importance of wudu in a very tender age, from that day onwards, there is not one moment that I have spent when I have not been in the state of wudu. Now you say, well, we just wash ourselves. Now I take that as face value, you wash yourself. But if you have the time, go and read the work by John Bruton on self-awareness. One of the things that he talks about is that when you want to self-improve, is to wash your face and arms and feet and be in a state of cleanliness. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us in the Holy Quran that He loves those who are always in the state of cleanliness. Being in the state of wudu is easy. To me, it's a shortcut to get thawab. And especially in this holy month of Ramadan. The Quran tells us that if you do a good deed, Allah will give you 10 times. And if you do a bad deed, you get punished for that one bad thing. And I'm not going to joke about that, but in Ramadan, it is triple. Why waste the opportunity? As my teacher, who is not here today, or he's not my teacher, but he's my mentor, when I spoke to him, he said, Taha, often it is not the quantity, but it's the quality of the ibadah that you do. So let's bring about that change. The non-eating has already helped, because the body is closing down. And so we're getting into the stage where we should try our level best to be in a state of wudu of all the time. And now when we talk about salah, what do we say about it? Again, our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, talking to the companions, and invariably, Hazrat Salman is with him. And it comes from him through our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, in due course. He says, O Salman, do you see this river which is flowing here? And they say, Ya Rasulullah, indeed we see it. He said, think of the person who jumps into this river and comes out. What would you say about his state of cleanliness? He said, Ya Rasulullah, he will be very clean. And he said, if he does this repeatedly, he He said, indeed, Ya Allah, Ya Rasulullah, he'll be very, very clean indeed. And he said, that is exactly the position of the mu'min. For every time he stands up for salah, he is purifying himself. And therefore, 5 times a day, you are standing up to salah and purifying yourself. But, as our 8th Imam, Imam Ali Rida points out, that saying La ilaha illallah can guarantee you najat. But there are conditions. And the condition with salah is this. When it is time for salah, stand up. Khalas. And I can assure you, that if you start doing that, invariably, 20 seconds, 30 seconds before you stand up for salah, your mobile will go. You will remember a piece of paper you have to file, somebody you have to talk to, something that has to be done, the sandwich which needs to go into the oven, something or the other will come to interrupt you. This is the holy month of Ramadan. Let's bring about that change when we say no. It can wait. It can wait. I accept that there was a time of my generation and my father and grandfather when the only way of communicating was by telegram, which would take 3-4 days. And today Twitter says it's got to be 140 characters. You had to do it less than 140 characters because for every character cost you £1. We've come a long way. We have learned. Twitter is new. We've been doing this shortcut communication a long time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to bring about change. So salat is one thing. Nobody has drawn my attention to the big hand on the clock. But for the benefit of all my younger friends for today, that clock, these days there are all these fancy clocks. They don't have faces like this and numbers and hands. But if you see that clock in the holy month of Ramadan, use it as a focal point for ibadah. For those numbers 1 to 12 should represent everything that is for you in our faith, namely our 12 Imams. And the big hand which is guiding the timing is none other than our first Imam, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib. And as far as that small hand is concerned, which actually tells us what time it is, exactly the hour, we should consider it as a presentation of none other than our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And before somebody starts shrieking and shirk, 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 look at that second hand which is ticking away. When you walked into this center and you sat down, and what you are now, after about 35 minutes, you are not the same person who walked in. And we will discuss that. But when you see that hand ticking away, it's remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in whose control everything is. Can you imagine how much thawab we will get when we take something as simple as that to bring taqwa into our hearts and closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My time has run out. I've taken more time, Muqisab, but I think you told me until the big hand reaches number 2, I can still keep talking. And so I would like to finish by asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the blessings of the Aimma alayhimus salam, and through the blessing of this holy month of Ramadan, to grant maghfirah to all our marhumeen. And in particular, Ya Allah, the way our 4th Imam has taught us, grant maghfirah for all those marhumeen for whom there is no one to remember them. Ya Allah, those who are unwell, grant them shifa. Ya Allah, grant the wishes of the mu'mineen. Ya Allah, for all of us, give us the strength to remain on the path of Islam. And that when that moment comes, when we leave this earth, on our lips is Ya Ali, Ya Ali, Ya Ali. Surah Al-Mubarak Al-Fatiha.